everybody. It's Thursday.
And welcome to this edition of The Night Bite.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. And we're laughing because our intro is all filled with ice fishing and we're just realizing it's totally open water now. So
New intro time.
I guess we'll see what's to come.
Yeah.
That open water crappie, that might stay. I like that one. So, with that, there's a lot of great stuff going on or about to go on. Here we are in central Wisconsin-ish. And we've had kind of some dull weather. So we had a big warm up and then it wasn't so warm. But I think coming up this weekend, that's really going to get things moving. There's still a lot of walleye to come in the Wolf River. There's white bass to come in the Wolf River. There's a whole bass and panfish on to come in early spring. And that's going to be a lot of great fishing coming up. So if you are here tuning in, let us know where you're going to be fishing coming up and how the water temperatures are looking and how the bite's going. And I'm interested in hearing all about that.
Absolutely.
What else am I missing?
Oh, I don't know. Like you said, there really isn't anything to talk about. The water's been stuck at 50 degrees, and that's the fish equivalent of limbo. You're not sitting under ice anymore, and you're not feeding to get the spawn going. So it's kind of like, what are we doing? We're just sitting here waiting. So
well, and hello, Nick Anderson. I saw you pop in. If you are still watching, we tend to take a spring and a fall fishing trip with you. So you better get ready, Nick Anderson. We are coming your way for Panfish. So Let us know what date you're available because I know that's few and far between these days. And hello to everybody else who is tuning in. So
Jay.
a few more comments coming in. Love seeing you guys here. And if anybody has questions along the way, certainly drop that in that comment section and then we will show that up here and talk about it.
Yeah, this is a great show for questions for sure.
So with that being said, we are here talking all kinds of fishing, but specifically reels. That's a big topic and maybe a little bit more than that. So we are here with Jason Brenic. Welcome to the show.
What's up, Jason?
Hey guys, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
So one of my first questions is always tell us about yourself. But in this instance, I'm actually going to start with one other question because I know it's a hot debate on the internet. Okay. I always introduce people as, Jason Brenic but the hot debate is how you pronounce the company name. So please share with us and settle this debate. Yes.
So yeah, that has been a hot debate ever since we started. I'm going to be honest, we didn't pick the best name for pronunciation. So to set the record straight, this is the way I explain it to people who have a tough time. I tell them it's like Reese's Pieces, PC fun, right? And so the PC, it means fish in Latin, and fun obviously is fun. And so the name kind of came from the goal was to make fishing fun and affordable again for people. And apparently also to make it hard to pronounce. So that is
So with that being said, Jason Brenic of Piscifun, tell us about yourself and a little bit about the company.
Sure. All right. Where do I start? So I've been fishing all my life. Like a lot of us who are doing this right now, we usually start at a young age. Fished all my life, grew up catching, you name the species. I fished for it when I was a kid. Started tournament fishing around the age of 18 years old. Worked my way up through tournament fishing. And let's see, I was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I was approached by Piscifun. And they're like, hey, we got some brand new gear we want to make, and we're just curious if you'd like to help us. And so my whole fishing career kind of led up to that, into tournaments, and all of a sudden this company kind of reaches out. And I decided to kind of take a gamble and see if it was something worth exploring. And here I am now, the U.S. director for Piscifun Fishing. So
that's awesome.
That's the quick and short of it.
That's awesome. Actually, that's a really great story. So I introduced you as, reels, but you do more than that. So give us a little bit of rundown of what you guys offer.
Yeah, so we offer a little bit of everything right now. Basically, the ultimate goal for Piscifun is kind of become a one-stop shop e-commerce store. And so it's like the Amazon of the fishing world, ideally. And so we do sell on Amazon, we sell on our website, we sell on various different online platforms. Reels are obviously the bread and butter. When you think Piscifun, you think fishing reels. But we do offer a couple lines of rods, and we are expanding that lineup. We're going to have some new rods coming this fall. We have tackle bags, we have pliers, we have braided line. We have all sorts of stuff. So definitely go out and check out the variety of things. It's not just reels. Lots of great things out there for people to choose from. And the cool thing is they're affordable, but they're all high quality stuff.
That's actually a really great point. And one of the things that brought me to Piscifun in the first place is some of those reels and then some of those other, accessories that you're talking about, great additions to all of that. But for the people who are here watching at home tonight, if you get inspired and maybe you are at home shopping, you actually were nice enough to set up a code for us and for our viewers at home tonight.
I was, yes. Please share that with them.
Okay, so code is FLive18. We will also get that into the comment section here. I see it's posting on YouTube and Facebook. So wherever you're watching, it should be active. And for the duration of the show and then 2 hours after.
Yep. Yeah, and that's good on anything. There's no limitations on the order size. There's no limitations on what you can order. So definitely take advantage of that because we don't do that very often.
That's really awesome. So we're here talking about, already affordable products, some really great durable products. But to already get a discount off that, that's going to be an awesome thing. And definitely go and check that out. So special thing for the viewers, just the next few hours. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as the show goes on.
Yep.
But with that, I guess let's start talking about what we got. So reels is the thing that I keep mentioning. And I guess, can you give us an overview of what you offer?
Yeah, so we offer quite a few different reels, and we're pretty new. So we really have large amount of growth has come in the last 3 years. So we started with just a couple of casting and spinning reels. At this point, we've got several spinning models from 500 size all the way up to 6,000 size. We have got a lot of different casting reels. We just released a brand new one, which I'll talk to you guys about here in a minute. And we also even offer like a muskie reel. The Alios 300 is a muskie style reel. And we're also dabbling in catfish reels. So we're really going into all different avenues, and it's just going to continue to expand exponentially over the next couple of years.
Well, and so from what I'm hearing from you is that no matter what kind of an angler you are, no matter what type of angling situation you're looking for, you're talking about you're a newer company, but that doesn't mean that you don't have something for an application. You don't have something to fit, or you do have something to fit every situation. So no matter what you're doing, people can check that out and see what works for them.
Absolutely, yeah. From the panfish angler all the way up to the muskie angler. I was down in Florida a month ago fishing for tarpon. We were using the Alios 300 for tarpon. So yeah, you name it. There's something out there for everybody, no matter what species you like to target.
Okay, so that's actually a really awesome thing. And while we were here in this terrible weather, I should have been down there with you. That sounds like a lot of fun. And actually really cool that application is something, you can use it down there, use it up here, and have tackle that can kind of travel with you. So that's a really great thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, a really unique thing about the company so everybody's first reaction and my first reaction as well, when I see something that's priced unrealistically, it immediately makes me think, oh, this must be bad quality, right? And we recognize and we're very aware that that's people's initial reaction to our company. And so what we try to do is explain to people that our structure or our build or our company is the reason that our stuff is so affordable. So for most companies, you generally have factory, distributor, store, like lots of markups in between. And there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, that's happened for decades. But we decided with e-commerce, we could take it directly from the producer, put it directly to e-commerce on various platforms. And instead of us jacking up the prices and taking that money, we pass those savings directly to the customers. And so that's why you get things that are made right alongside other top brands in the industry, but you don't see that same price tag. So that's a big thing about the brand, and pretty much everything that we make follows that same design.
And we actually have a comment here from Terry about changing his mind about presidents and Daiwas. And that's actually the thing about it, though. There's something out there for everybody. So it's not about changing somebody's mind, and if you have something that works great, then go for it. But that's the thing, is recognizing the options that are out there, and just being able to utilize that. So it's not that anything is trying to be replaced, but, especially if you're the kind of person who, has specific reels for specific situations, that's possible.
Right. And yeah, so to Terry's comment, we get these all the time, right? Because again, being the new kid on the block, the fanboys of Daiwa and Shimano and Abu, they're at our throats like, oh, it's not better than my. And like you said, we're not trying to be better than anyone. The big thing that we're trying to do is the reality is that the average guy cannot go out and afford a $300 reel, right? There are obviously folks who do, but the average guy can't. And so we're looking to make those affordable, high quality reels so that the average guy can get something very good, but not spend his whole wallet. So Terry, what I would recommend is trying one because they are so affordable, and compare apples to apples, and then let me know what you think.
Yeah, well, and another point to throw in here is that, like you said, over the last 3 years, you've had a lot of growth, and just being in the fishing communities as far as the social media aspect goes, like, Emily and I go through a lot of different groups and stuff, and just the name popping up and people are like, oh, these are so affordable, I'm going to try it. And then they come back and they're like, man, this is awesome. And,
right.
Emily and I were part of that first wave. Like, we have some of the first gen stuff, and it was just out of the box even. It's pretty awesome. It's just feels awesome. And so far it's worked really well.
Yeah, the big thing, one of the things I always tell people, I say, don't compare brand names, because comparing brand names, you're not really comparing anything. Mm-hmm. Compare material. So if it's a carbon reel, look at another carbon reel. If it has 10 bearings, look at the 10 bearing, and once you start comparing apples to apples, you quickly realize that there's a very high value proposition with our brand. So.
Well, and that's actually a really, really great point, because I think a lot of times people choose. It's
Sorry,
okay,
guys.
it happens. We're live.
Yeah. All right.
People are calling to get into the episode.
I forgot my iPhone was linked to my Mac laptop. I should probably turn that off.
It's okay. It's okay. My dog is probably going to bark at some point. But we were talking about comparing component to component. And I think that's actually a really, really great point, because, if you have a carbon reel versus something that isn't or whatever, mm-hmm. comparing apples to apples is a huge key in this. But you're also talking about those different components within the reel. And I think a lot of times people don't necessarily where do you go to educate yourself about the components of a reel?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. So most of us, we know the very surface level things. Like when we pick up a reel, we go to the store, we go like this, and we're like, ooh, this is really smooth.
Right.
So most of us do that. That's what we do. And obviously there's not a reason for most people to dive into reels at the depth that I do, but there are a lot of very interesting things once you do start to break that down. And so I would say right now, obviously with most things, the number one learning resource is YouTube. There are so many different channels that are dedicated to breaking down reels, going through them and literally schematically talking part by part and explaining why it's a good part or why it's a bad part. And we actually work with a lot of those YouTubers. We basically send them a product and we say, hey, be honest. You tear it apart and you let your fans know. If it's good, tell them. If it's bad, tell them. And we're okay with that. And so YouTube would probably be the number one place to dive in and look for those things.
And so actually that's a follow-up question here from Jay. And I don't know if this is an easy question or not. So how are your components better on your reels, like the spool or the rotor versus somebody else? So I'm also going to piggyback on that though, and say if somebody was going to check out on YouTube a link to go and watch this in addition to this conversation, I'm interested in that also.
Yeah. So that's a great question. So how are the components better on your reels? So it's not necessarily that ours are better, right? Because you can take any one reel and I could say, well, this Carbon X is better than Daiwa's this, so we could do that all night long. It really comes down to the value proposition. And what I mean when I say that is when you're buying something, how much value are you getting out of that purchase versus, what it should cost? And so let's say you have a Daiwa reel that is made of 100% carbon. Well, the Carbon X is also made of 100% carbon. Let's say it has 10+1 bearings. Well, the Carbon X also has 10+. So once you start going through these things and now you compare all these things apples to apples, 180 sticker price, 79 sticker price. So that's where it comes in. So it's not that we're making these crazy astronomically better reels than every other brand. It's just the value proposition is that much better.
So you're still doing quality just at an affordable rate. And that's a really, really cool thing, especially for the average angler or just somebody looking for a great product.
Yeah. And I can tell you, there's your kid that goes to college that really wants to get into fishing. He's not going out and buying a Shimano Metanium. He's like, it's just not possible unless they have really rich parents. Then I guess it's possible.
And have fun, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, most people, it's making stuff affordable for everybody to use and making it fun again. Fishing has gotten very expensive in the last decade. From boat prices to rod and reels to, I mean, a $20 jerkbait. You know what I mean? It's gotten very pricey.
Well, and actually, that's also a really great point with, you know, COVID and kind of all of it going on. Lots of people have gone into stores and found empty shelves. That's had a lot of people turning to local bait shops, which is great. You know, people turning to online, which is great. But, you know, I think, you know, having so many new people in the sport and kind of having prices all jacked up in different places, I mean, it is really refreshing to get to something that's affordable. So.
Yep, and that was the ultimate goal for us, honestly.
Also, a really great follow-up point from Scott Brower. So thanks for being here and thanks for commenting this. The value is also being able to have multiple reels as they're a third to half the price. That way you can have different rod actions with you. So really, really great. Instead of investing all into one reel, you can have a few different ones, have your rods all set up and everything ready to go. And that's one thing that would definitely help you as an angler.
Yeah, absolutely. Having multiple setups for multiple situations is certainly going to probably help you be more efficient in catching fish. So it's definitely something that can help.
And then, you know, as far as the reels, and we were just talking components a few minutes ago. So when we look at reels, you know, you kind of had made the comment and I loved it. You know, we go to the store, we pick it up, we spin the handle, it's smooth, good to go, you know? So when we pick up a reel, what is it that we're looking for that can assure us it's going to be good for fishing?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things, and it really depends on what you're looking for in that reel. So let's say this is crappie junction. Let's talk about crappies, okay? So crappie fishing, you're obviously using usually an ultralight setup or some sort of very lightweight setup. So the first thing I'm going to look for in a reel for that is going to be something that's lightweight. So obviously carbon is a very lightweight material. So a carbon reel would be a good starting place. You know, you're going to have lightweight, it's going to be balanced, good starting place. When you're hooking into a 15-inch crappie that's spawning and you're using light line, your drag is very critical. Right?
Yeah.
And you're excited, this thing's flopping on top of the water, it's coming to the boat. You need that very finite drag to be able to tick when it needs to be able to get that fish in. That's where a carbon drag system comes in. A lot of people don't realize that there's felt drag washers and there's carbon drag washers. Carbon lasts. You will never burn the carbon out of a reel. I promise you, if you're a pan fisherman, you will use it for the rest of your life. It'll never burn out. And so that's also a very big thing to look for. And the last thing is usually how smooth it is. And a lot of people don't realize that gears are made with different materials. Usually your smoothest material for a gear is made out of brass. Brass is a softer metal. It's generally smoother. Aluminum, while it sounds like the more high quality component, is actually much more rough and much more rigid. So just little things like that. I mean, they don't seem like little things. They're little things to me because I talk about it all the time, but those are things to look for, you know, if you were looking for a good crappie reel.
Well, I'll put one more point in there. The drag should sound good too.
Yeah,
I need to get people's attention to let them know I'm catching a crappie. No, those are all really, really great points. And I think once you start, you can go anybody that's watching this channel right now. I almost guarantee you have an old reel somewhere, and if you just take the drag cap off, just see what the difference is underneath the tensioner for your drag. You'll see your older reel has a felt one and the newer one will have a carbon one, and you pull it off and you'll see your older one will most likely have the aluminum spool, and then the other one will have the brass gearing, just because that's what we've learned over the past, 30, 40, 50 decades. We've come a long way since the Johnson reels that were made out of an alarm clock. Right. There's some good stuff to be had out there.
Yep, absolutely. There's been a lot of evolution in the last, like you said, several decades. And we've learned what materials to use where and how to place them to make them function as best as they can. So yeah, the actual componentry is very important to pay attention to, because you can, and I'm not saying this because I will never bash another brand. Shimano, Daiwa, I tournament fish for years. I've used all of these brands before, and they make great things. But it's really paying attention apples to apples at what those components are and what the prices are. And that's really, and even Daiwa has very good component reels at very affordable prices as well. So lots of good options out there. Being educated is probably the most important thing.
That's absolutely. And, you know, that's a really great, going back to YouTube, you know, getting that education there, watching how other anglers are using their reels, watching kind of what they're doing. As far as the components and, you know, keeping them in top shape, what do you recommend for maintenance?
That is a great question. So maintenance is a very slippery slope because unfortunately there's a lot of little tiny pieces in those reels. And if you don't lay things out correctly when you get started, it's very easy to lose those components. So I've done it numerous times. I still do it. So I recommend, number one, get a white towel. Okay. And lay out a white towel on whatever surface you are on, because the parts will not roll, they won't move, and they will stick out like a sore thumb. You'll be able to see everything. Second thing is take your reel apart and place it on that towel in a reverse manner, so that way you can walk back through and place everything back in the same manner. That's probably my biggest tip, because people start putting this here and this there, and they're like, oh, I totally forgot what order that went in.
Yeah.
That is very important. And honestly, for the average fisherman, even the person who fishes more than the average fisherman, you probably never really need to do maintenance more than once a year. For us Midwest folks, a good time is in the off season, in the winter time. You know, if you don't ice fish a ton, it's a good time to do it. Number one thing is greasing your gears. So you ever reel a reel and you're like, it feels really sticky. You know, it's not as smooth. Chances are your grease at some point has gotten gummed up either with water or dust or sand or something in there. And a lot of people think they really need to gob the grease on in between their gears. But in fact, the way you should do it is literally take a tiny little craft paintbrush, barely dip it in the grease, and just paint inside of those teeth, just enough to coat it. That's it. You need nothing more than that. So a lot of things we get in our repair shops is guys who they gobbed it all on, and then all of a sudden dust got in there. Like, I don't know why it feels so bad. We clean it out, we relube it, send it back. It's a whole new reel. You know, so that's probably my biggest tip.
Yeah, well, and I love your idea of preparing with that white towel, because there's nothing worse than swearing that you didn't lose anything, but really something just rolled off your table when you like look the other way, you know, you swear nothing went anywhere and it did. Yeah. But the other thing is, it's really fun to, you know, kind of take the reel apart and see all the things that are in there and how it breaks down and all that. So, you know, it's easy to also forget. You're like, oh, well, I'm going to remember how this goes. But, you know, sometimes, sometimes. But you're talking about, you know, using the right amount in there so it doesn't come up. That's really great. If you do have a problem or something with a reel or, you know, a Piscifun product, we have Jay asking about the warranty.
Yeah, so our warranty is pretty standard across the industry. We have a 1-year warranty against any manufacturer defects. And so obviously our goal is to keep our customers happy. One of the things I think is lost in today's world, not even just fishing, is customer service. I feel that the more we progress and chase the almighty dollar, the less the people factor has really continued to grow. So I am a stickler about our customer service. If there's ever a problem, I will personally get involved because I want people to be taken care of. So if there's ever an issue within a year, if it's anything that happened that could be a defect, you just email CS, that's Sam at Piscifun.com, and they will take care of you. So it's either we will fix it or we will replace the reel altogether.
Awesome. And then a few more questions about reels. So I'm going to keep going. So I'm sorry, it's kind of rapid fire at you. Terry's asking, he thought that they were completely sealed reels. And I think in some cases that depends reel by reel.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it really does depend. Different reels have different seal systems built into them. And obviously some are going to be a little bit more sealed than others.
And if you have questions about which reels are and aren't sealed, how could you find that out?
You can go on the website. Basically, every single reel that we have on the website, there's usually a layout of everything as far as the features of that reel go. And we typically highlight that within those features.
And then while you're on the website, just a reminder that we do have a code for the night. So scroll back up to that top there, Josh, so you can read it. Code is FLIVE18. No idea why our dog is barking. She's really excited about the code. So make sure that you get to the website. And can you remind us what the website is?
Yeah, so it's www.piscifun.com. Piscifun.
Perfect. And use that code. And while you're checking out all the reels that are and aren't sealed, then that'll be awesome. Few more questions, scrolling down to the bottom. A few people checking in. So hello as you're getting here. Sorry, normally Josh is the scrolling. I'm reaching over. Michael swapped all of his reels over to Piscifun. So that's awesome. Must love them. That's great. A question here from Scott. I had my bail shut automatically a few times on the cast. Power surf casing, 1 ounce, 10-foot surf rod. Anything I can do?
First, Scott, I would ask you to tell me which model you're using, like what reel model and what size is it? It could have to do with the size of the reel you're using versus the bait you're casting. Otherwise, there's probably just a problem with the tension spring within the bail mechanism for closing. So that's one of those things that, if you let us know, obviously we will take care of that under warranty as long as it's still under warranty. And a lot of times, even if it's not under warranty, if you still email us and it's like, hey, this isn't working, we'll usually troubleshoot it with you and say, hey, the part's $2. We'll send it to you. Are you comfortable fixing it yourself? We will still do repairs, and they're really not that expensive, even outside of warranty. So that's just something to keep in mind.
And I guess I have kind of an opposite story of Scott. So everybody has their own different experiences, but I have used other reels in the past, and not all of them were fancy. Sometimes I just use something off a shelf, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But what you notice a lot of times when you're fishing, when you're casting especially, is how that line lines up, like how your fishing line lines up into that reel. Because sometimes you have a reel where you're constantly turning that bail to get it in line, because otherwise, if you're jigging, if you're jerking, if you're doing anything like that, that's something that can pop that little bar on that reel. Yep. And that's something that can definitely deter catching a fish, if you're not getting a good hook set. So something I've really found with the Piscifun rods or the reels is that they do line up very nice. And I tend to have less issues like that.
Yeah, see, I'm so weird, like from tournament fishing, every brand I've ever used, I will cast, I'll close it, and I'll grab the line and slide. Like, it's like a mental mechanism now. So I never have that problem because I always check it. It's very annoying setting the hook, though, and having that bail pop open.
Yeah.
So I guess, I almost was going to start asking you about fishing because you were a tournament fisherman, but I also don't want to get distracted from reels. So I'm a little bit split here. But a reminder to people at home, if you do have more questions, anything specific, drop that in here. Otherwise, we might still get to it. But I guess, did you have anything specific with reels that you wanted to talk about tonight?
Yeah, I'll answer. I just saw Jay popped in a question. So before I jump into all that, I'll answer Jay's question quick. So he asked what my go-to spinning reel is. My go-to spinning reel is the Carbon X. It is currently the best spinning reel in our lineup, in my opinion. It's carbon, it's lightweight, crazy amount of bearings, killer drag. So that is my choice. A very close second is the Viper X. So I call the Viper X the Carbon X's little brother, right? So it's basically the same reel. If you take away the carbon frame and did a graphite frame, that's what the Viper X is. So if you want to save that $25, $30, that's what I would go with is the Viper X.
And that Viper is one that I've used, and I do really love that. So I mean,
it is a great
experience. It's a great system.
Yep.
Terry, what do you recommend for casting for walleye or jigging?
So it pretty much boils down to personal preference when it comes to what you're going to use. It's usually that 2000 or 3000 model. Again, both of those reels, even the Honor XT is also another great one for that. But yeah, at 2000, basically what you're looking at is the difference between line take up. So a 2000 6.2 to 1 gear ratio and a 3000, you might get 2 inches, 2.5 more inches of line uptake every time you spin that handle. So if you're using a technique where the fish tend to run at you, maybe like using a shiver, and when you go to stick it, that fish runs right away at the boat and you want to catch up, a 3000 might be better for you. But either one of those will work great.
Cool.
Yeah, I think our walleye rods, I think I have a 2000 on mine.
Yeah, we have rods with 2 and 3 on them. I guess it really doesn't make that much of a difference to us as far as
they both work great in that size range.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know, maybe my thinking is off, but I'll grab my rod with the 2000 when I'm like jigging and expecting a good fish. But if I'm like night fishing and I might catch a muskie, then I'm gonna grab something with that larger reel. I don't know, I just assume that the larger reel has a better drag system. Is that not even probably true?
The drag discs in the 2000 and 3000 are actually exactly the same. So the only difference you're really seeing is a little bit of spool capacity, which is, allowing you to get more of that lineup. But otherwise, they're pretty darn close.
Scott Brower was just mentioning he had a Venom 4000, but I'm going to just let you guys talk after on the side. So And then Terry, awesome. Thanks for, or sorry, you're saying sorry for all the, no, that's what we're here for.
No,
is we're talking reels, we're answering questions. So to be honest, sometimes, you know, there's questions that I have and it's great because I could be there and I could just ask them. But sometimes people at home come up with questions that I didn't realize I had. So also thank you for sharing that with me.
And thanks for watching, because that's honestly why we do this, to get the information out to you guys. So keep the questions coming.
Absolutely.
So
maybe talking about a couple reels before the question barrage came in.
Yeah. Go for it.
So, guys, I just wanted to talk to you just a little bit about a couple of reels. I'm not going to take up a lot of time doing this because I don't want this to seem like a pitch or anything like that. But I figured since we are here on Crappie Junction, maybe we should touch on a couple of panfish reels that I think you guys might like. So we talked about the Viper X and the Carbon X. I actually have both of those right here. And so this one here, this is a Viper X. So this is the green and black. This is the 1000 model. So you can see in the hand the size of that reel. And I'll give you the side-by-side. This is the Viper X and the Carbon X. I'm trying to get them equal there. So those are 1000s. Those are perfect panfish reels. Again, this model, the Carbon X, has a 100% carbon frame. Super, super lightweight. So if you're a stickler and you're maybe coming away from a brand that you're used to using like Shimano or Daiwa and you really want that lightweight, the Carbon X is probably your go-to. And then again, the Viper X is kind of that little brother to that reel. So great panfish reels if that's what you're looking for. And then one more that I want to touch on is a reel that we actually just came out with. This reel is 100% aluminum frame, aluminum side plate. This is called the Alloy M casting reel. So for you crappie junkies out there, you're probably not going to care about this because you're never going to ever use something like this. But for anybody who likes fishing bass or anything like that, we just dropped this reel. It retails at $89.99. And I promise you, you will not find another aluminum frame reel on the market at that price. So definitely something to take a look at.
Yeah, that's awesome. Another little point I want to point out here about the difference between the Viper and the Carbon too. When you're pairing that with a rod, you know, if for people that fish crappies, a lot of times you'll put a reel on one of those like 12 or 14 foot rods. And just because the Carbon X is lighter doesn't mean it's better for every rod, because if you put the Viper on that longer rod, it balances out a little bit more because you have that ballast weight on the back.
Yep. So
take that into account too. You know, if you're using a shorter rod, the Carbon X is probably, you're using it to cast probably a little bit more.
Yep.
So it'd probably be better. But if you're doing a lot of like long lining, or you're using it to dip into structure and stuff, you might want to think about putting a Viper on that longer rod, just because it'll balance it out and it'll do the same thing as the Carbon does. You know, it reduces the fatigue.
Yep.
It just depends on what rods you put it on as far as crappie fishing goes. Something to think about.
That's a great point. You know, what I see mostly is everybody's like, go lighter, go lighter, go lighter. You know, they want the lightest possible thing in the world. If you could make it as light as a feather, they would love it. But they don't. It's a great point. The balance is actually what you're after. Right, it's not necessarily the lightweight setup, but it's having that good balance and that tip balance. So that's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, I like that too. I have a few rods and I'm like, man, maybe I should switch to it. I'm like, you got me thinking. A few other people here thinking about other things though.
Here.
Yeah, put that up there.
Scott, I'll answer your question. There is left-handed options.
Terry, what's the gear ratio on the panfish reels?
So the 1000s are 5.2 to 1s. We jump up to 6.2 to 1 once you hit that 2000 mark. Reason being is generally you're not really blazing a panfish in at Mach 5 speed, so you really don't need the 6.2 to 1. And actually, what a lot of people don't realize or don't know is the faster your gear ratio means the more teeth that are on each gear, and the more teeth means how it's less smooth. So the lower gear ratio reels are always going to be more smooth than your fast reels.
Right.
There you go. That's actually a great tip. Terry, I use spinning reels all the time. Will I like an inline?
My opinion on that one, Terry, honestly, is you just have to give it a try, because there's just no way for us to tell you what you're going to like if you try it. You might pick up an inline. You might never want to pick up a spinning reel again. Or you might pick it up and you might throw it in the garbage. So it's definitely worth a try to see if you like using it.
Yeah, Terry, one thing I would say about inlines is that no matter what reel you're using for, I'm assuming you're talking about ice fishing. No matter what reel you're using, you're going to have to strip line out. You know, there's a trigger option on on the inline that you guys offer, and there's several other brands that have triggers. It doesn't.
Too many Jerry's.
It doesn't. Oh yeah. It doesn't. It doesn't prevent you from having to strip line out, because even with the trigger, unless you're using something heavy enough to give you the fall rate that you need,
right,
you're going to end up stripping line.
Yep.
The biggest reason to use an inline reel is to reduce twist. And that's where I put the inlines on my super finesse stuff. So I'm a pan fisherman. All of my stuff is finesse stuff. So when I'm saying super finesse stuff, I'm talking like my 2 pound fluoro leader to my 1 pound, or my 1 pound diameter braid. And there's a swivel on it, and it's on my inline. And I'm using like 2 millimeter, 3 millimeter, that kind of stuff, because you don't want any spin. If you're using heavier stuff, you can usually get away with a spinning reel because it's not going to spin that much anyways. Plus the fish are a little bit more aggressive. I like the inline.
I was just going to say, but that's the funny thing is Josh and I mean, we fish together all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We use similar stuff in similar ways and different ways sometimes. I do not use the inline reels almost ever. They're great. They work. They're awesome. Not for me. And that's okay, because as an angler, we all get to make that decision. And that's why there's different options.
And then she won't steal my fishing rod.
No problem. Don't steal mine.
Honestly, the only time I use an inline is on my 24-inch JT Ultralight. I mean, when I go super crazy finesse for big bluegills or big crappies, and I'm concerned about all that twist, that's the only time I pull out an inline. Because honestly, for me personally, I miss the sound of the drag. I really like that fight, even if it's only a couple seconds, just hearing a few pings. I miss that when I use an inline reel. So I only use it when I feel in need of, have to use it.
Well, and I really felt like I had a pretty good advantage when we were fishing some bayous by us this year, because we were only fishing the majority of the winter, which was like a month anyway, but we were fishing the majority of the winter in less than 10 feet of water.
Sometimes literally less than 5.
Yeah. And so when we were fishing in that type of situation, I love that inline. That was great.
I guess my opinion on that is when you're fishing that shallow and you only have to let a certain amount of line out anyways, like you could almost use a palm rod, but I don't, again, because actually I don't use the palm rod because I like the drag system of a reel. Actually, that's the reason. So if you've ever seen me on the ice, like sometimes I'm trying to see where's the camera, like literally sometimes I will use like a 14-inch rod. I mean, Josh and I make rods, and so we're able to kind of customize that at home. I know, Jason, I see your face. Probably people at home are doing that. I like to hole hop. I like to stand right over my hole. I like a really short rod. It is great for sight fishing, but I really like that idea of a palm rod and being able to go around. Sometimes fish are right under the ice. There's a few occasions, but to be able to have that reel on there is just what I do. And you're able to choose that as an angler. That probably doesn't work for everybody. Everyone's on a long rod trend, but that doesn't matter. A few other comments here. Jay's agreeing inline reels are great, but the drag system is not as quite as adjustable as a spinning reel. So great point. John DeFaro, I use the inline on my mag rod, 32-inch. Only thing you can't hear the drag. So, that's a great point. Sometimes, especially if you set your rod down, if you're ice fishing, it's on a rod holder, you can't hear that drag. So that's go and watch your rods, I guess. It's funny. Yeah. What would you recommend? I started reading Terry's halfway through. I'm always willing to try new hands down. What would you recommend for 6 pound? I don't use anything else. I love the thrill of the drag, scream, and the challenge.
6 pound is probably getting towards the top of the range of a 1,000 reel. That's kind of like that fine line, right? So usually if you're getting to 8, you should probably step up to a 2,000 just because of the way the line lays on the spool. That much smaller spool on a 1,000, you want to kind of stay with that lower diameter. That being said, if you're using 8-pound braid, I mean, it would certainly work for a 1,000. So it kind of depends what you're using. If it's fluoro, braid, that sort of thing.
Now we got another what's your favorite reel question.
Well, and switching.
Pronounce that last name.
Excuse me. So what is your favorite bait casting reel?
So oddly enough, Travis is actually my tournament partner for bass fishing. So my favorite bait casting reel now, since we just released it, is the Alloy M. It's got upgraded bearings. It casts a mile. It's got 22 pounds of drag, which is pretty much best in class for that size casting reel. And the aluminum frame is just impeccable. So now that one or the Spark Pro, the pretty little blue and purple one, that's my second favorite. So those two are my tops.
Awesome.
And actually, that is kind of a funny point that you're making. The colors, they are very attractive reels. If you're putting them on your rods, when you hold up I'm like, ooh, green and black. And I'm like, ooh, matte black. It's like every single one of my rods that'll be able to go on. And maybe not everyone cares about that. But sometimes, you go out there, you have a nice boat, you have a nice setup, you have this. It's nice when your rod matches, it feels awesome. I
honestly think that a ton of people care about that. Honestly, if you think about it, look at the ice fishing rod industry right now and the different custom. You have Mags Custom, you have JT. There's so many different custom rod companies out there. And it's because everyone wants to have this cool matching rod with their gear,
Yeah.
Guys matching their trucks to their boats. I think everybody likes something that's aesthetically pleasing. So that's definitely a really good point.
Well, and you were talking about, one of the things about Piscifun is to make fishing fun. And so, especially when you can get a really affordable reel, maybe in a color that matches a rod, maybe that your kid loves or that your significant other loves, that's something that really motivates them to get out on the water because then they want to use that equipment. So, it sounds silly to talk about how nice looking they are, but sometimes that's really part of the key.
Absolutely. And I'm kind of glad you brought up the whole, the kids and your significant other and stuff like that, because our slogan for Piscifun is fish with family. And so that slogan is kind of it's kind of twofold. So number one, we really want to encourage people to get kids out fishing. We all know as we're sitting here using technology, but technology is really, it's running rampant in kids at very young ages. And obviously they need to because their world is different. They're growing up differently. But it's nice to see kids getting out and being able to do those things. So we encourage that. We have to keep it going generationally. And that being said, it's very hard to go out and buy several reels to outfit. If you have 4 kids, it's very hard to do that. So if you have something affordable, at least you have the ability to do that and not break the bank. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Plus, some of those reels are perfect birthday present range.
Yeah.
Present range. So, I have a birthday coming up. I might ask for a reel.
I think somebody got a rod already for their early birthday present.
Jay is asking, have you ever debated on multiple colors on reels, like orange, red, blue?
Yeah, so we actually did have a casting series that we're actually phasing it out right now, but we did have a Phantom X casting series that actually was orange, red, and blue. Those were the 3 colors that we had. So you nailed it on that one, Jay. But it's tough because we're still a small company, so we may not appear very small to people as they see us on social media and stuff like that, but we are still pretty small compared to the big dogs. So we do not have the let's say financial capability to produce reels that are 20 different colors, because if they sit on the shelf because somebody really isn't digging the blue, that's kind of harming our ability to continue to sell it at a good rate. So you'll see as we grow, you'll start to see us dabble in a little bit more here and there, and it'll get a little bit more interesting.
So remember back in the 90s and the big thing was watches that you could change the face. We just need to be able to change the face on all the reels. Yeah. It comes with the different colors and we'll put them in. But actually, I guess I'm thinking of the hunting world. There are some cases, what are the weights on your bow so you can balance it. Sometimes the weights come in different colors. So maybe there would be a fun way that we can convince you guys to do something like that.
100% see getting yelled at by customers for their either connecting color pieces falling off. Once the cast and my red set completely fell in the water.
That's super funny. That's what it is. There are lots of colors though. So if you're looking for something specific, go on. And the other thing is you guys really do look for and listen to different opinions that customers have. So, it's not that you guys might reply to every single thing that you see online, but you're a social media person and certainly that information goes somewhere. So, if you guys have something that you love, start pitching that.
That's a great point because I pay very close attention. I'm always constantly going through every single post we have, every single ad we have. I scroll through the comments on every single one. And so I am constantly, deducting information from those posts and taking them back to our designers and saying, hey, And I'll even give a little thing here. In the last couple of years, there's been a lot of ladies who are like, guys, we want something in our color. We want like a pink or or something like that. So we do have that in the works for you guys right now, actually. And Emily actually helped doing some color selection on that one. So that was very cool for her to help out with that. But we do listen to everything. So guys, please comment, good, bad, or indifferent. We take all that feedback and we try to utilize it in our designs.
Well, and that's a really great point. Even if it's not good feedback, that's the thing is to build a great product. You have to know what doesn't work. So, like, don't go out there and be a jerk and just spew mean things. But if you have something that doesn't work for you as an angler, if you have something that could be tweaked, so if you have an idea, send that in, because you never know, the whole goal is to make a great product. And if there's a way to do that, then that's the goal.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Every time I see, let's say a negative comment or something about our products, I view every single one of those as an opportunity to make something better or to improve in some way, shape, or form. So I value all feedback, not just good feedback.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. And then, as far as the different products go, you guys do have, you certainly have a huge, like, YouTube, you do videos all the time. I was going to send people to your page to check out everything that's there, but that's the thing, is that you have a lot of information and a lot out there.
Yeah, we have a pretty significant YouTube. I think we just hit 32,000 subs on YouTube. Our TikTok, if you guys have not gotten into TikTok, it's actually pretty fun. We've got like 842,000 followers on TikTok, I think now. That's Facebook, awesome. Instagram. So we have lots of platforms, lots of different ways to communicate. So whatever your social media platform of choice is, there's a good chance you can reach us. So definitely do not hesitate.
Well, and even a lot of on the water content. So if you are looking for, products actually being used, that kind of information is there.
Yep. Yeah. And we don't really hide anything. Even a series that I'm doing for this year, I'm fishing the Wisconsin Elite Series team tournament. And just yesterday, I released a video of our first tournament. So I had GoPros running pretty much the whole day while we were fishing the tournament, and I put it together in a video. And so I don't just talk about these reels and, use them now and then. I use them all the time in every single situation, even when money's on the line. So, and we also do have, you guys may have heard of Caleb Kufal. He's an Elite Series Bassmaster Pro, and he runs all Piscifun gear for his reels as well. So when there's $100,000 on the line and somebody can trust it, it's usually a pretty good thing.
Yeah. Well, and I just watched a video of your muskie reel getting pulled around by a truck. So that was a pretty fun video to watch.
Yep. Yeah. We like to do those torture test type things, and we encourage other YouTubers to do those things because, it is fun to watch those different things. I always try to do a torture test, something, every time we come out with a new reel. So it's fun trying to figure out new ways to try to break it.
And it's certainly fun to watch, so keep doing that. So as far as following all that social media, remind people how they can find that.
Yeah, so like I said, guys, we have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. So all of those different platforms, you can go out and check us out. Usually on YouTube, we're doing 2 videos per week. So we try to keep that content rolling. TikTok is daily updates, usually 2 videos a day. So lots of different things to follow. Pretty much have something that suits everyone's need. If you're a really serious angler, or if you like the more comedic side, there's kind of something out there for everybody.
Yeah, and that's always a great thing. I can't not ask this question. I was going to not ask the question because I was going to start ending the show. Anything new coming for ice?
Anything new coming for ice? Ooh. Other than the pink reel in the Viper X style, we're going to have that for a new ice reel. We don't really have anything in the works right now, at least not yet. But we're always looking at new options and new ideas and different things. So one thing I do want to talk about is if you guys have used the inline, we had a little bit of a complaint session on the trigger selection or the trigger spacing. So we are working on getting that fixed. So that'll be fixed before next ice season for all you guys who didn't like the positioning. But other than that, nothing else really in the works that I can at least touch on yet.
So
I'm walking that line.
Yeah. I was going to say that was not immediate no. So that means something. But that's the great thing is, keep watching social media because that information certainly will come out at some point. I know some people kind of start preparing for ice a little bit ahead of time. Some of us way ahead of time. I maybe never put my ice stuff away totally. But keep watching social media. Yeah. And, go and check out the website, certainly, because we do have 2 hours from here. So it's 8 o'clock almost Central Time, so 10 o'clock-ish Central Time. Code FLive18. FLive18. We have that in the comment section there, so go and check that out. And otherwise, go and enjoy that website because there's a lot of good stuff there.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And we're always doing sales. There's always some kind of deal out there. We do holiday sales for everything. There's a Mother's Day sale going on right now. So we do all sorts of stuff all the time. So definitely check it out. And one thing to point out, if you guys don't see it on the website, there's a good chance that it may be in stock on Amazon. That's one we sell a lot on Amazon. So definitely go check that out. If you see something you don't really want, it's not in stock, check that out as well.
Cool.
Perfect. So for the people at home, thank you for being here. And Jason, thank you also for being here. It was a great time.
Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing everybody on the next edition of the Night Bite.
Night, everybody.